Adam, are we rolling?
Yeah.
All right, I want to call this regular meeting of the Simpson County Fiscal Court to order, and I'm going to ask our road superintendent, Bobby Groves, if he would come and lead us in prayer, and we'll follow that with the pledge to the flag. Thank you, Bobby.
Pray with us, please. Father, we thank you for this day and for the many blessings you provide us each day and the way you watch over and protect us. We do pray today for our community and our state and our country. Pray you guide the leaders of our nation and our community to make decisions and do things in a way that honors and please you. We just ask you to watch over and protect first responders, our military, the men and women that serve our community and our country. Father, we thank you for the blessings you give us each day. We just pray for unity and peace in our nation and our country. Just thank you for loving us and protecting us and providing for us. In Christ's name, amen.
Yeah. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Keith, it's good to see you back here with us. Gentlemen, if y'all had an opportunity to review the minutes from our July 7th regular fiscal court meeting, we just need a motion and a second to approve those minutes. Okay. Got a motion by Nate, second by Scott. Any question or discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next, you'll see on the agenda to approve a jail score contract. It's actually two. We actually need to have, we probably need to have three different motions here, I think. Because if y'all recall, we had a contract with Tabitha Boyer at $2,000 per month, and the jail was funding that out of the commissary. So she's no longer going to be in that capacity. So we probably need a motion to terminate that contract. But then we have Eric and Natasha Walker individually. We'll need to make those motions separately. They're going to, the two of them are going to take up what she was doing, and they'll each be at $1,000 a month contract. So there's no net change in the money. The commissary is still covering the cost. So what we would need first is a motion to terminate the contract with Tabitha Boyer and authorize the judge to sign it.
Motion.
Got a motion by Scott, second by Nate. Any other discussion or question? Am I telling all that correctly, Jailer? All right. All right. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Now we need a motion and a second to enter into a contract with Eric Walker for the purpose of facilitating the SCORE program at a cost of $1,000 per month, provided by the jail commissary, and authorize the judge to sign that contract.
Motion made.
Got a motion by Nate. Second by Myron. Any question or discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? And finally, we would need a motion and a second to enter into a contract with Natasha Walker for facilitating the SCORE program at $1,000 per month, funded by the commissary, and authorize the judge to sign that contract. Motion by Myron, second by Scott. Any question or discussion on that one? I figured if we wouldn't want to question Eric Walker, we sure wouldn't question Natasha. I hope you're watching, Brother Eric. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next on the agenda, gentlemen, at our last meeting, we had Jessie Gross of Enterprise here. She asked if she come back today, and I said absolutely. She brought a different sidekick with her today, Justin Newberry. And I'll be honest with you, Jessie, we just got the information yesterday that you sent. I emailed it out to the magistrates, and I got them all printed copies. So I'm pretty sure they haven't had a chance to really digest it. But if we've got questions, now would be the time if there's something you'd like to share with us. But my guess is we're probably going to need a little time just to review and digest all these numbers.
Well, thank you all for having us. And yes, last time, Jason Coyle, you remember, who is our fleet strategy manager. He came and presented, and then today is Justin Newberry, who would be your account manager moving forward. I come in and find a good starting point for you all. I do a fleet analysis that's both financial and just safety, and then get you set up and started. But then Justin is really where rubber meets the road. And so we can go through, I'd like for him to introduce himself, and then I'd like to walk you through one of those quotes that you've been given, just because it may be unfamiliar. So Justin, if you don't mind.
Yeah, my name's Justin Newberry. I'm just really here. I want you all to be able to put a face to the name of what will happen once we get a program up and running and implemented. This is where I step in and continue on with the program and help fulfill the promises that Jesse's made and a lot of stuff that you all have been talking about along the way already. I've been with Enterprise myself and for 15 plus years now. So I've been around for quite a while. I'm the account manager for Warren County, several other counties and cities across the state, and even school districts. So what an account manager does is, like I said, I really look to make sure that you guys are making the most financially responsible decisions when it comes to your fleet. So I meet twice a year, even more if you need it. Come in, sit down in these type of meetings and make recommendations for what you should do with your fleet. From there, you guys still have the ability to do what you want, but I'm here with the backing of data and things that we'll collect along the way to help you guys make those decisions. So that's really what I'll be here for.
How long has Warren County been using this program?
Warren County has gone, I believe, on their 5th year with us. I took over Warren County when I come on board, but yeah, I believe it's 5 years.
Is that their sheriff, or is that?
Yeah, that's good.
Is that the entire fleet?
Yeah, work with sheriff and for those vehicles and also for the other county vehicles that they have, road department, things like that.
So all of their vehicles are leased. They don't own.
I don't know if they have 100% of the vehicles leased, but they're really on board with the program.
But they are leasing vehicles basically for every department.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, they're a great referral for you guys too. I mean, if you guys are having our questions, Sheriff Hightower would be one to talk to for sure. So we're over there. So.
And I did bring a sample of what Justin does. It's a lot of data, but if you don't mind, I'd like to add that out. Just so you can kind of see, what he said, our value proposition is that we want to, we'll have to share, but,
yeah, there's no need to digest all that right now. This is what Jesse printed off for us, just to show you what, when I do have a meeting with our clients, we bring something similar to this as one of the tools that kind of, again, break down the fleet and help you understand more about what's going on. So we're looking at fuel economy, we're looking at maintenance, again, some of the stuff that Jesse's already talked about. We're looking really about resale. That's where we really shine, is when we go to sell these vehicles for you. So yeah, what Jesse's passing out is kind of a discussion point that we kind of start off with a meeting. That's the meeting I'm going to have here in a couple of days. So.
But that is our goal, is that every vehicle, whether it's on lease, what we would consider to be replaced, like a replaced vehicle, which is what I identify as year one, which vehicles is it most equitable to replace now. But you can still have your own customer-owned vehicle. So you have your vehicle, but you still have your non-owned. Justin is analyzing the whole fleet. So whether you purchase vehicles through us or it's your county vehicle, until it is on the leasing program or however you want to fund it, we're still keeping eyes on it, because that goes into your overall fleet spend. So we're constantly looking to reduce your fuel, your maintenance, your repair. So it's not just a buy a vehicle through us and we only look at that. We really look at all vehicles. And that's what that analysis is showing.
Can you walk us through one of the quotes?
Absolutely.
And I don't care, Sheriff, would you rather walk through the Dodge Ram or the Charger quote?
Just for simplicity, the Dodge Ram.
Okay. So the Dodge Ram quote, so gentlemen, it'll say at the top of your page, 2020 Dodge Durango, not Dodge Durango, Ram 1500 Classic 4-wheel drive, is what it'll say at the top of the page.
Yes, if you look at the top right, there's a quote number. I'm looking at 4655308.
Yes. Yeah, so just walk us through this one, so that we
Yeah.
kind of get an idea of how this really works.
Sure.
Because I have a feeling what we're gonna need to do at that point then is just digest all this information.
Right.
And then
And we'll go through this one, and then I want to speak to also, Bobby, your vehicle, because it's going to be a little different in terms of the terms that yours is set up on. So we'll start with this one.
Okay.
Up at the top, and I really don't mean to treat you elementarily. I'm just know that this is kind of new language for everyone, so I want to slow down and make sure we're all on the same page. Up at the top, where that first bolded line is, that's just your year, make, model, what the vehicle is. You do see SSV, that's for your pursuit vehicle. So your pursuit Ram is going to be different than just a standard Ram 1500, okay? Your term is for 60 months, so 5 years. That's very standard for shared vehicles, but to what Justin does is every year he's looking at market trends, he's looking at your mileage, he's looking at everything. That's all subject to change. This is just based on looking at the data that the sheriff gave me, based on your mileage and the right time to cycle that vehicle is at 5 years. So at that top line, you have that capitalized price of your vehicle is $38,050.30. We're going to pause there, and I want you to flip over to page 3. So I'm looking at the page that has 2 columns, invoice and MSRP. So your MSRP is your sticker price, invoice is enterprise price. So it's $44,385. Now, that $38.50 is your invoice price minus your incentives and any extra additional enterprise love. That's how we arrived at that number. And this is using your government incentives as well. So this all has all of that already factored into the vehicle price. Now, go to page 2. This quote is going to be a little different because I'm looking at where it has your aftermarket equipment tool. We make no money off of this. This is just a pass-through operational help and support for you all, is that we work with L&W. I got this from the sheriff, an exact invoice, got this from Lance, confirmed over at L&W. This is how much the equipment goes into the cost of that vehicle, $8,165. Now we're going to go back to page 1. Your equipment is capped into the total cost of this vehicle, so you're paying off the equipment over the lifetime of the lease. Okay, so that way you're not out of pocket for upfront cash on equipment waiting for it to arrive. Whenever we deliver the vehicle to you, you'll remember Jason mentioned this last time, is that it is turnkey ready. So graphics, equipment, everything's ready to go on the vehicle. All right, going down the line, your initial license fee, $23, courtesy delivery fee. Those are all just typical things that that are at some point considered into a dealership purchase either way. We're going to go down to that total capitalized amount. That's your delivered price of $38,000. And then you're going to depreciate it at 1.6. That's just because that's the term that you're going to use the vehicle from $38,000 down to what we're going to call your reduced book value, so the price that you're going to pay off at the end over 60 terms. You're only paying for what you use, 60 months, you're only paying for what you use. So think of it like a bookend. You have your capitalized price. We're going to pay it down. If you go down to the bottom, I have you guys paying it down to $1.50 because you get so close to paying it at zero anyway. Okay? Any questions so far on what that delivered price to your reduced book value? Any questions there on how we arrive at that monthly payment of $637? Y'all are smart cookies. Okay. All right. Monthly lease charge. Now, I separated this out, just full transparency. This is where we make our money. This is how Justin and I get paid, and we keep our lights on. That's off of including your management fee and interest. So that's where that 107.31 comes in. That's Justin. Welcome. Welcome, Justin. So that brings your total monthly rent to $744.79. All of that that's in the middle there does not apply to you all because you get tires and brakes at a better price than we can give you just with government pricing. So there's no need for us to put those in there. Your next bolded number, that total monthly rental including additional services, again, $744.79. We've reduced it down to $1. In order for Jason to be paid and us to sell the vehicle at wholesale, there's a $400 service fee. That's typical, that's on everyone. And so the only thing really there to note that's kind of governing these terms are that you're going to go 15,000 miles a year for 60 months. And if that's not what we think it's going to be, then we'll change it after year 1 and we can adjust it. And at any point you want to make your payment less and hold on to the vehicle longer at the end of term, we can extend the lease. I think we talked about that a little bit, but are there any questions?
What is the charge if you go over the 15,000 miles a year?
You want to speak to that, Justin?
That's a good question. There's actually not a charge. So
Not.
this is what we call an open-ended lease where there's not a charge for mileage. Part of what I'll do is just, again, if we're tracking 15,000 miles is what we have you set up for, when I sit down and meet with you after 6 or 12 months, we'll look and see where you are on that. And again, the only thing that's really going to affect is your resale at the very end of
It won't affect the depreciation value.
No, you're
If we
going
go
to,
over
yeah,
3 times miles, it's not going to affect that.
you can drive 30,000 miles in the first year, and what we'll do is it's just going to affect your resale at the end of that. You're already depreciating it down to 0 as it is, so. Does that answer your question?
So now, out of the $744.79 that we'll be paying per month, you're saying that the tires and brakes isn't included in that?
No, because you guys could go replace your tires and brakes for cheaper than what I can include them into the lease. I can always add them if you want to. And you all have an in-house shop that it would be more cost effective for you guys to replace them as you need on your own, just like you're doing right now.
And each vehicle that will be leased on the years on the contract is five years in?
Yes, but if we notice, this is just based on my broad brush of just the sheriff's department, that's what your average annual mileage actually came out to 12.5, so I put it at 15,000 just to be kind of a buffer. But if Justin notices there's some more vehicles that are going over that in year 1, then we can adjust it based on the resale value. If you want it to be at 4 years, we can set some up at 4. But typically, I haven't really, and Justin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but most sheriff's departments or police departments stay on 5-year terms just because they're rougher on their vehicles and want to hold on to that equipment instead of replacing it more often.
So at the end of the 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
we got a 75,000 mile vehicle. Let's say we put the full 15,000 miles on it every year.
Right.
At the end of the 5-year lease, 75,000 mile vehicle, you guys take it and sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings how much money you anticipate, and how does that money impact us going forward to turning the lease vehicle over?
Great. I'm going to look back at something I gave you guys. In that menu pricing, I believe that our resale value was, I believe our resale was $9,000 at a minimum on that vehicle. I'm looking for that menu pricing I gave you guys. But what you do with the resale, it's yours. And that would come to you, sir, of, I don't know what your statutes are of, can they roll the equity? They have to roll the equity into the next purchase of the next vehicle, correct? But it's yours. And if you wanted to, you can hold on to it, you own it, or we can sell it.
Yeah, you got vehicles coming this year. You buy a truck for a car.
Well, these things coming here, remember that big lengthy time frame we talked about here today? The one car I ordered last year, way last year, I still ain't got it. That's the COVID stuff. Remember we had one that carried on, still waiting on it. The two new ones, I got $8,000 budget this year to buy 2 new vehicles. Had ordered it, like on pricing, remember how we talked about the big hold up on pricing and all that? Right now, I haven't ordered anything, I'm waiting on price.
But on the one you ordered, but you ordered.
I'll order a Dodge Charger.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, don't get confused. We can use trucks, we can use trucks. We're never gonna have all of one particular business. We may have 90% of one. I like Dodge trucks for the deputies. They do better for us. We're able to do lots of different duties with those. Pull people out of ditches, go through fields when we got. I like the Dodge truck. Sometimes we have to do the interdiction out on the interstate, and the truck's not what you want to have out there. So I like to keep 1 or 2 Dodge Chargers in our fleet for interstate vehicles. We've got one Ford Interceptor, which is a small SUV. I don't want a lot of SUVs. There's a Dodge Durango price in there. We might have one Dodge Durango, but yeah, if you want to know what the Simpson County Sheriff's Office mainly drives, it's going to be pickup. But I don't want anybody to ever just freak out because they're like, well, I've got a Ford Fusion in our fleet. Why would you have a Ford Fusion, Sheriff? Well, we've got guys who send to the academy, and if I have to drive their own personal car, they're running about $3,000 a year. So I was thinking about a Ford Fusion 2 years ago for $17,000. It should last us a good 5 or 6 years. That is an unmarked car, doesn't have any police equipment over the radio in it, for the guys to drive back and forth from Franklin and the academy. Saving us good money, but that's what I'm saying. The good thing with their program, and even if we're not in their program, is each time I purchase a vehicle, it has a purpose. And they'll sit with you and it's for your purpose and let you get what you need to. But there's trouble for making what we want.
The reason I'm asking is, I was going to know the price.
Their price is very good. I can see the new price because they haven't given me the price.
I mean, on the one door, both of us.
It's about what that is. I don't remember off the top of my head. But I looked at their prices versus, basically, they're getting the state contract price, the same as we're getting it, because they're getting it for a police agency. So it's always going to be like that. The value of theirs, when it shows like $38,000 for the truck, they've already put in the equipment, and that's about what I figured, about $38,000 for the vehicle. It's about $30,000 for the vehicle, and about $8,000 for the equipment. So hit or miss, it's very close to what I see.
Okay.
Sheriff, while you're up, I have a question for you, and I'll get back. And
No, you're fine. It's 10,000, by the way. I looked at that. 10,000 on retail.
And so at the end of that lease agreement, when that vehicle sells, that $10,000 is Simpson County's money to use, whether we just take the money, or whether we keep the car, or whether we roll it over into the next lease.
That's where it comes to your.
Okay, but my question, Sheriff, is, have we ever sold a cruiser after 5 years?
No.
And when we typically sell a cruiser, what kind of money do we get out of it?
You're not going to get anything.
Like $1,500?
I need 20, what we do know is simple facts. I need 23 vehicles to operate out there. Right now, I've got vehicles that got $200,000.
I mean, the reason I ask the question is this, and this is something I think all of us need to put a head and pen and paper to, is you're not selling a vehicle after 5 years and you're running it. We need to take a hard look at what are the maintenance costs from year 6 to whatever year we sell it, and then what kind of money we're getting versus in 5 years, you know, we've had probably very little maintenance cost and we're rolling $10,000 over rather than, I mean, and here's what I'm saying. I'm saying this today to you, to the sheriff, to the court, and on the camera. I'm not saying what we will or won't do, but this is good information for us to
Absolutely.
start putting a pen and paper together to say, how is this best going to work
Right.
in Simpson County?
Judge, I would like to point out, I'm big in remembering, because I know you guys went through a lot of stuff. I remember what happened at the church. I do have 2 vehicles that over the past 3 years that we have purchased, that I specifically told you when I was kidding. My intent is to run this vehicle for 3 years and then try to sell it. So what you will see, y'all, I mean, I'm neither pushing, I'm neither for or against enterprise. It's just an option for you guys to consider. Next year in my budget, and you have to ask yourself, how are you going to handle it when you're sitting here? Let's say I need more than 2, but let's just say we argue about the 2 vehicles, like we do every year. I will ask for 3 next year. And I will tell you when I ask for the 3. Remember 3 years ago, I told you I was buying one truck that I wanted to sell. Well, I've got to purchase the truck to replace it before I can sell it. So my intent this year for this third vehicle is to be able to order one, and when I get it, we're gonna sell the one I told you about. And that money's coming back to y'all. But yeah, on the asking money side, I'll be asking for $40,000 more to be able to replace that vehicle. What will we get when we sell it? I don't know, but I think we'll get in the low 20s for that vehicle. So, just remember, our plan here is in advance. That's kind of what they do, but they do it on a professional basis. I can't move a lot of business, I can move a vehicle every few years. We've never done it, and if y'all remember a couple of years ago, I explained that when we went through our budget cycle. Remember, I got the free package on two trucks. Those two trucks are the ones that we're intending to sell in the next year.
Gotcha.
And what we try to do, and I'm trying to summarize here, so correct me if I speak out of line. When I look at your purchase history, it goes up and down, and no fault to you, but that's the nature of your budget and things that happen, and then hello COVID, and you know, we're trying to bring some stability and predictability to your budget, and while also improving the safety of your vehicle for your drivers, regardless of department, and improving the safety for your community. So that's what we are. We are your professional consultants, where I would want the sheriff to be focusing on keeping people safe. I would want Bobby to focus on keeping everything running. Let us come in and be your eyes to look at what's the market doing, what's your best manufacturer to go through this year, where can we really get skinny on some of these maintenance things and repairs. And when you speak to the looking at year 6, 75,000 miles, and in year 5 for a pursued vehicle is where we identify you're going to start getting into risky behavior, anything beyond that. So let's reduce those risks all around, let's reduce those costs all around, and replace the vehicle while it's also still got value. That's where we're seeing a lot of success with other local government.
Gentlemen, do y'all have any other questions?
Is there a minimum of how many vehicles that you would have to lease? Is there a minimum?
I would say you could do one, but that's not going to do very much for you. So for you all, at a minimum, I would do 3 or 4 of Bobby's trucks plus the 1 ton that he needs, and then I would look at doing 4 or 5. Or do what you did last year and do 8 in Sheriff's Department. That would be my, just like Plan C. Plan A is rip a Band-Aid. The more you can do up front, the more operational.
Time I've been on fiscal court, there's never been probably no more than a couple of vehicles a year bought.
Yeah.
But Myron, I think the answer to your question is no, there's not a minimum. I mean, it's.
Yeah, there's not a minimum.
And that's the thing, there's no obligation. You're not obligated
I just need to
to
know
any
if there
number,
was a minimum.
and you're not obligated. If you do this 1 year and decide, 6 months into it, man, this is crappy.
Jesse lied to me.
Yeah, there's no obligation to continue on.
It's not that, is that if, let's just say the court trends towards leasing vehicles. Once you start leasing your whole fleet, you've only got 2 options after that. You continue leasing, or you're going to come up with a ton of money, capital outlay money, to try to refurbish your fleet.
Yeah.
So, it's something that we really have to think about.
Oh, absolutely.
Money, our budget, it does dictate a lot what we can and cannot do. And there may be some years we can do more than others, and that's probably the reason why you're seeing some of the numbers that you see.
Right. I love that you brought that up, because now I understand why you're asking about the minimum. Like, if I said, if you agreed to just even do what you did last year, whatever that was, or the year before, start with 1 or 2, then next year you're like, dang, this is great, I want to do more. That's fine. If you can't do it this year, then that's fine too. We really, Justin and I've been on meetings with him before where we may recommend X, Y, Z, but y'all can't do it, or you just don't want to, and that's fine too, but we at least
Yeah,
wanna
that's
show you the
something
data.
that our sheriff mentioned. I wasn't on code at that time, and I think in 2018, they kind of started a pilot program with these pickup trucks. Like Gary did mention, he's gonna sell his pickup trucks in 40 years. And one of what I remember was that the selling point of buying a pickup truck, the resale value was much greater than a vehicle or car.
Correct.
So I would kind of like to see how that, so that's gonna happen on next year, Jerry?
One next year, and the year after that, the other truck.
And so as a reference point, in the 5-year lease turnaround, $10,000 on a Charger, what would that number be on a Ram after 5 years?
Oh, I'm sorry, I gave you the RAM number. The RAM number is 10,000, the Charger is 7,000. And, to your question, or to asking about like what the resale would be, I have fair market values on what all the vehicles are worth. So I'm happy to share that that's part of this exercise, is I look at your fleet now to look at what is equitable, what can we get rid of now that would, we're not looking to just get rid of the crappy of the crap. Sometimes we look at what are your to offset costs and whatnot, can you use a down payment, things like that, and offset equipment. So I have those on yours. I didn't see very many that were worth very much, even those 3-year-old vehicles, just because of how they're driven. But I can share that with you all.
I know, the jailer says he has a question. Gentlemen, do any of y'all have any other questions?
Well, I had just one, at the end of the lease, say you do it for 5 years. If we decide we want to keep that vehicle, we can purchase that. Would we purchase that for that 10,000, or what would it?
At the end of the 5 years, you broke that down to $1.50. So technically, at the end of that 5 years, you pay $1.50.
And you get to keep
it. Continue running.
Okay, I got you. You got that.
Good question.
Oh, the jailer says he has no more question. I guess you asked me a question. All right.
You know, great minds. Yeah.
Yes, I have estimated resale from when we first started exploring this process on all the vehicles. So if anyone has a specific question about a specific vehicle, I can give that to you right now.
All right. Any other questions, gentlemen?
Can we take one look, just because of the matter of difference between a Pursuit and more of a commercial vehicle? I just want to, it's the same setup of the quote, but the reason that a lot of times this is so productive for other county vehicles is because of these half-ton, three-quarter-ton trucks. So I'm going to go to quote number up in that top right-hand corner. It's 4659120. It's your 2020 Chevy Silverado 2500. And before we even, I'm going to try something a little different on this one. If you'll go down to the bottom where it's, or near the bottom where it says that reduced book value at 12 months, can you write $26,500 there? That's your resale after year one, conservatively.
26.1.
26.5.
So you're saying that vehicle in a 1-year use, you're paying $30,000 for it and getting $26,500 for it after a year.
Exactly.
So it's cost you $4,000 or $3,600 to have that vehicle for a year.
Does the market drive these numbers? I mean, the economy can change and.
Oh, yeah, it absolutely could. This has been trending though for the past year, and it's still trending right now, even during the midst of COVID. I reran the numbers yesterday just to make sure that things were accurate.
So that number could change one way or the other.
I think what you're looking at, what happens at the end is the thing's not worth $26,000, maybe it's worth a little less. And to your point, and to what someone said earlier, you would actually owe this some transparency. If you wanted to sell that vehicle after 12 months, you would owe the difference, say $3,000, and you would owe the difference. But the other option is we run it another year and pay it out a little bit further is another option. So it's really all flexible. And again, part of that's what I do is I bring these ideas to you guys when we sit down at a meeting like this and say, hey, this truck here, I think we should run a little longer, it's not selling yet. But a lot of times, like you mentioned, your half-ton trucks, your regular kind of work vehicles, again, you're paying such a good price up front for these, that, you know, in 12 months, I would love to buy a $10,000 truck personally. I mean, 10,000 mile truck, and after 12 months, you know, and spend a little bit more, you know what I mean? So, that's where it comes in. We're not gonna take your city truck and we're gonna sell it to folks like you and I. We're gonna love to have that truck.
Right.
But, yeah, good question. That will fluctuate. I would say another thing too is we're really conservative in what that final number turns out to be too. We wanna make sure there is a little bit of a gap at the end to where if it's not worth as much money that we can either run it a little bit longer or it might even be just a break even.
Right. You will always be equitable, or well, I should say always. Our goal is to keep you positive equity at all times. Justin's held accountable to that. This quote is set up the exact same. The things that are missing are there's not an additional equipment quote, but it is set up your same MSRP and invoice. If I were to show this quote to my commercial clients, they would throw bricks at me just because they cannot get the upfront buy that you in government can. But pairing that again with our resale is where, I mean, I showed you guys the cents per mile. It's a 10 cents difference over the lifetime of that vehicle per mile to operate it. And we look at the data to say, is this real? Can we really flip these every year and keep it positive? And it said yes, based on fuel, based on maintenance. And you shouldn't be paying a lot of maintenance. So we took that, Bobby and I talked about it, and we took the maintenance program off because you have an in-house shop that you can do stuff with, and it just doesn't make sense. So, but if at any point it did, we could add it back.
Yeah, it is kind of counterintuitive to flip a truck after 12 months. I feel like we're not about to be able to run it as long as we can, but if you think about it, in 1 year, 10,000 miles, you've maybe done 2 oil changes.
Right.
That's it. There's no maintenance. Everything else is under warranty. It's good. Let's get rid of it. So you've got, 8 top up and oil change is all you can do on that vehicle for 12 months. So that's, again, I think that everyone gets the idea of that. Cycling a vehicle makes sense, because a lot of times it has to do with that maintenance thing that a lot of people just don't see or think or account for. But it's a real number.
And downtime. A lot of times downtime isn't considered either. I just wanted us to look at that, and your payment on that one would be $637. And see, we're not reducing it to 0. We're reducing it to that, basically $24,500 at the end. And then you're taking the equity and rolling it. It's a lot of numbers. Does anyone have any more questions?
Now, I don't know if I did or if I didn't, I can't remember, but I can send you guys, like, the past 10 years, how much money we spent on vehicle year over year for the past 10 years, and how much money we spent on maintenance on vehicles the past 10 years. I sent it to you?
I don't have it with me, but yeah, I've seen it.
I thought I sent it, but I can resend it if you want me to.
And you can always keep doing exactly what you're doing. We talk primarily with about leasing just because, for one, given the trucks that are in your fleet, and what the market's doing and the budget limitations, especially for your sheriff's department, leasing from my perspective makes sense, but you could always still pay cash as well. Like, we don't discriminate towards your funding. And you can also keep doing what you're doing in terms of the number of vehicles you're replacing. Do it through us. Let us manage it. Let us make recommendations for you, and let us work with you. That's kind of our. I would challenge you to be a little more open-minded to there is an alternative way. That's why we're working with so many already and got so many on the books, especially this year because of the situation with COVID. People are getting a little more creative in how they allocate their funding and do more with less. And that's kind of, did you share with them, Judge, the budget tool?
I did. I think I
Okay.
I forwarded your entire email to them yesterday.
And you can look at these, you can play with the quantity and it shows you, but I have it even just theoretically, and you don't have to do this yet, it's just an example. But your Ram 1500s, if you've got 2 of those, 1 Dodge, Durango, 1 Pursuit, and then 3 of the 2500s, your total annual cost, and that's, you know, including your maintenance is, or not maintenance, but that's watching your maintenance is $60,000. As opposed to what, you pay what, $40,000 for one? And then once you have the equity that comes back on those 1-year flips, then you're only out $46,000. And obviously, the more that you have, the more equity you can hold. But that's the way that works. It's doing more with less.
All right, we'll get all this digested. I'll get back with you soon.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all so
Thank you,
much.
Jesse. Thank you, Jesse.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, gentlemen, next on the agenda is just a discussion point. I think I sent all of you, it's in the packet. We're getting several calls, codes-related issues, how we're handling them, what we do. Primarily, we've been, and I don't know, Sheriff, is Carter sitting out there anywhere close? Carter, there. I mean, primarily how we handle the codes issues as they come in, they go, and it's all pretty much a reactive thing. It's just, if we have time, if they have time to get there, we try to deal with it. Those complaints, I don't know if you have the number in your feed, but those complaints seem to be piling up day after day after day. I know, Scott, there's one issue on Broadway that it's hard to get a handle on some of this stuff. Doing it the way we're doing it. So my question to you guys is, do we want to take a look at doing something differently than what we're doing? Or are we happy with how it is right now?
Carter and I talked, concerning, R1, 2, and 3. And A1, under 10 acres. And in talking with Carter, I found out that we basically, other than setbacks, we don't really have a lot of regs. Is that?
And on the zoning aspect of it, if you look at all the calls that we've got, a lot of them are attributed to an urbanization of a rural area. In that, you've got acreage lots of beginning at 1 up to as many as 9 to almost 10 acres. Anything 10 acres or more is considered agricultural use. If you look at that spectrum, we've got subdivisions in the county that are R1, R2, and R3. And in those particular zone requirements, there's nothing in there in terms of code enforcement for property maintenance, which kind of leaves the spectrum for expectations to be wide open. In that regard, I know I had a case where, some live animals were being butchered in an R2 or R1 zone, residential zone, but it was in the county. Yeah. And it can get out of hand really quick, and I was referred to the Department of Health, and I was referred to the Wildlife, Department of Agriculture. At the end of the day, I ended up putting a notice together and going out and delivering it, and then a month later it came back up. And that's just a case in point. But all these, to sum it up and summarize it, and I had this brainstorm last night thinking about this, all these reports that come in are residentially rooted in an ag zone primarily. Some of them are in a subdivision that has a zone of R1 through 3. Meaning that if we condensed it down and just looked at that group and said anything 10 acres or more is considered agricultural, we very rarely ever get a call that falls into that category. It's everything down. It could be in a rural village district, which, by the way, we have 7 in the county. It could be in a ag zone, but it's residential use, meaning it's 1 acre on the average to maybe 5 to 8 acres. And the rest of them are primarily, when you condense it down further, they're oriented in a residential zone, 1 through 3. So when you look at that, if we tried to control it from approach from zoning and said we included something in this particular zone, let's say it's R2 in the county, then we included in there that the property maintenance code that we have is enforceable, and we could probably create language in that respect and put it as part of the zone regulations, which allows Article 11 in those same zone regulations to enforce it. That gets more into a view that, okay, you're going in a residential zone, you're going to build a house, or you're going to build a house in a ag zone that's 5 acres. These codes apply, not only the setbacks do, but these property maintenance codes apply as well. We can get on the front side of it when we issue a building permit to a lot of these properties, and there are some properties that where you have mobile homes involved. They're on 1 acre. They're primarily were located there years ago from a conditional use standpoint, and they've changed hands 3 or 4 times, and the conditional uses are dissolved at that point because they go with the owner, not the property. Getting these mobile homes off properties is a case in itself. However, it's pretty easy to push if you have a zone regulation that requires that property, that mobile home be gone and can't be rented, okay? Now, going forward, we don't allow mobile homes on a 1 acre lot, period. We don't allow anything less than 10 acres now. Unless they have 10 acres or more, that's the way a mobile home or a manufactured home can be located. Majority of the code enforcement issues are around those type of things, where a conditional use was issued years ago and located a mobile home, it's become rental property, and usually that dictates that it's just a matter of time for somebody a mile down the road is called about the atrocious shape this property's in. We've had some success stories, and we're still struggling with a few. But I'm thinking that if we condensed it down and attached our code enforcement in the county to our zoning, which is a lot more regimented, we could probably resolve some of the issues of being inundated with a lot of calls. And they usually come around in the spring and summer when people are out doing and paying attention to their property, not so much in the winter when people don't pay attention. But the realization of this is urbanization in the rural areas. You know, the expectations that people have when they come in and build a house and spend $300,000 to build a house, and down the road from them, a mile away, they have to look at this piece of property that is a nuisance in general. And our code enforcement property maintenance code ordinance isolates that nuisance. This puts a little more clarity to it if we could list it under the zone.
We don't have those codes actually in place.
No, you got 2 books you're juggling with. You go here and you go there, and it would be better if it was all in 1 book. And the property maintenance code is such a small portion of what we do, and as the judge alluded to, basically we handle it by the grease. You know, the grease gets on the squeaky wheel. That's where they're handled. And if it squeaks loud enough, we grease it. But that's all we do, we grease it. We don't find out why the grease is not sticking. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
A little bit of history. Before I had this job, I was hiring a zoning attorney. And one of the things that I came to conclusion was that county is going to become more and more urbanized. And cities not understanding that the entire county is just not economically feasible. And so, I came to the conclusion, I talked to the judge, and he had a lot of property maintenance stuff. And I tried to push him to that, and I got nowhere. And so when I got this job, I still pushed and finally got them to adopt something. It's been tinkered with, Marty's been around for that, so there's always been concern that we live outside, we don't want mowing requirements being enforced on Farmer Brown's property out in the ocean. And so there was, my concern was not Farmer Brown, like they tell people, I was concerned about areas outside of Corpus City limits that are urbanized. Subdivisions either factor or de facto, and they may not have, you look at them, they look like subdivision. And so we adopted that, and also the whole point was I was going to be reactive. City oftentimes is proactive, they go around trying to, that, we kind of mission with the needs and the, there are different goals in life, because you have different people with different forces, and so we have departments, so the whole point was people call me, so who can do about this, I said, I'll issue one department, file a lawsuit, but that doesn't get you to the point. So, I think you're right. As I told people, the longer we go, it's not now, 5, 10 years, 20 years from now, the urbanization process is just going to continue. This problem is worse and worse. So, I'm just telling you, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think there's a way to try to exercise this. And that's what we do. When you call about all returns, I could only imagine being a neighbor to that. That sort of thing. I mean, if you go down your place of business, you know, it's going to carry over the shoulder. But if you're living next door to somebody, and it's not even hot the other time, it's like the middle of summer. I'm sure that's nice. It's, but I think that there's probably what you're asking for is not unreasonable.
Well, I think maybe there's something being missed here. It's not a question of whether or not we need to implement the zone regulation changes in urbanized or subdivided areas. The question at hand is, with the volume of calls that come in, do we want to just tell these people, okay, we'll get to it when we can, do the best we can, or do we want to take a step to get more proactive about policing the codes violations? Well, honestly, right now, I don't know that we have code violations outside the city limits. I think about places like Cambridge Trace and Patton subdivision.
Sherwood Terrace, where this one we're talking about.
Yeah, we got Sherwood Terrace subdivision over there. I don't even know the name of the subdivision out here on the Honeysuckle. Then you got, like, where Scott's living at down Broadway. I don't know that is a subdivision name. It's like you talked about, maybe a de facto subdivision. It's not really technically a subdivision, but when you drive down Broadway, it's definitely not farmland. You've got Huntington Park in behind that definitely is a subdivision. And basically, we have no provisions for any type of codes or how we handle violations. And right now, we pretty much just tell everybody, we'll do the best we can if we can get out there and look at it. And then,
Well, we don't currently have anything on paper to show about it.
right,
We don't have that.
right. But here's the thing, there's no purpose of putting it on paper if we're not gonna do anything. Code enforcement board.
Made a code enforcement board, so we could issue violations. Before we did not, because we did not have a board to do it. Now that we have that, we can join the board with the city, yes. That, under the correct.
So what codes do we have in place then?
Outside of what the property maintenance code is, which is a separate document in an ordinance, and we've got the zoning code, and that's it. Now, Article 11 in the zoning code allows code enforcement procedures to take place, where before, all we could do was file a suit. Now we can impose fines, penalties.
I can speak from personal experience in the last 2 months. I made a phone call about 2 mobile homes that were basically falling down, that hadn't been able to do nothing in the past because they didn't have the code enforcement board. Part of that taken care of in a couple of weeks. We had another issue with a guy that was trying to sell an RV on his property, and like, yes, I got a trailer with my car, just have people living in it, and that caused me, or we got that taken care of. So, I mean, I don't know if we have an ocean board officer to change it. I kind of like what things are going on now. We tried that with the city before, and it was, I got calls, this is different between the city and the county. And, I know what you're saying about the residential areas, but, I mean, I'm personally having an in-law office, I'm not going to go off the cost of that. I'm willing to do something to work with, I don't think part of them is the city,
Do we need to have some additional language that deals with the residential areas?
If you read the purpose of every R zone, or every zone for that matter, it starts off with just, basically describing the area, what it should look like, and what it's for. There's not much deviation between R1, 2, and 3, but we don't go further in depth with what our expectations under the property maintenance code should be in that area. And that's where we get into the differences, because when you look at it, in these areas, prime example, the RVs, I started off conversation to the effect that it's an RV park, more than one unit, and it's being lived in. That's a code issue with the building code. It's not considered a long-term dwelling, okay? It's got to go. You can park it on your property, but you can't have anybody living there. And it was obviously through the pictures. I had pictures of people sitting outside, cooking out, and in their lawn chairs, and things like that. So it would, when you see the ladders coming out, and you see the elevators pulled up, that this thing is situated to, just like it would a campground. Now, I've got 2 other campgrounds that are miniature campgrounds in the county that are a problem. However, the property owners seem to not think they got a problem. Some of the surrounding property owners have pointed it out to me. So, those are struggles that I've got. They're both in the ag zone. The ag zone's wide open, so if you get right down to it, how is that a nuisance when right down the road, there's a salvage yard of old cars in the woods? Nobody said anything about it because it's in the woods. Nobody's seen it, okay? But the minute we get a storm and all the trees are down, that's going to be seen. And I guess my point is, in the ag zone, it's a whole lot easier to forgive those things than it would be if you had a residential zone per se, or a rural village district per se, in an ag zone that you've got properties that are closer by. People try to take care of them closer. in an old abandoned barn. I'm just waiting for the call to come up one day about an old abandoned barn, which has always been a part of Central County's landscape in the rural areas. But some people that move from California or wherever may locate on a 5-acre parcel, build a $300,000 home, and now they got a problem with a barn up the road. I'm just waiting for that call to come out. It hadn't come yet, but we're due, okay? And how we tackle that is just, I'm at the opinion that, you know, in the process, and we hadn't got there on any of these cases. I've got 16 on the flow chart that I monitor on the matrix. I call it my radar. Some of them are closed, some of them are open, some of them are reopened, okay? They're problem areas that are in the county. I try to maintain that and keep a record of what I did last time. I try to keep it from having to go before the code enforcement board, because then I have to have their permission to start levying fines and penalties. I don't really want to go through that, because that's a whole nother ball of wax, steps and procedures that have to be done that I really don't have the time to do. I would prefer that we try to put some more language in our zoning and focus in that direction. Gives me a little more teeth that I can quote from in notices I send out to get more attention applied to it, to keep it from having to go to the point where it gets before the zoning.
Can you get that together so we can review it?
I can.
Okay.
So that would make it easier for you. You could handle it better.
I can handle it
Without-
more efficient.
Right, without having.
Well, let's do that. Let's get that language together so we can review what we're looking at, and we can go from there.
You know, for example, in the residential zone, you're only allowed 2 cars. Cars parked in the yard, and all these other cars that you would have parked around are prohibited, basically. On-street parking is prohibited. They have to be in the driveway. So a typical 3-bedroom home is liable to have 2 cars. That's by design in that zone. What this allows me is a code enforcement measure to place in there that, you know, multiple cars on given nights, and it allows me multiple sheds on that lot and coverage. And it gives me a whole more bigger picture to be able to not go around and find these problems, but when they're called in, I can react quicker, and I've got more meat and potatoes to put into the notice I send.
But if these are cars that people own, that they drive, if they have 3 or 4.
That gets into another issue. You
But-
gotta find out if they're licensed.
Exactly right, but I mean,
Operable.
if they don't have weeds growing up their own,
Yeah.
you would think
But
they use those
you could go to a house and it'd be more than 2 cars there.
Yes, you can.
Like, you got one. But, getting back to a scenario you painted about this old barn. And we're talking about, as far as A1, or A1, we're talking about
Agriculture.
under 10 acres.
Mhm. I can respond to that one when it comes out, if I had this in there and say, that's an ag zone, and it's not prohibited.
You know, these people that want, like you referenced, build a $300,000 house, and there's no barns that have been there for 10 years, 100 years. I don't like any type of language that's gonna start forcing people to tear down that. People gotta understand about the country. You gotta understand about this before they go out and buy a lot in the country.
I
So
try
I'd
my
like to
best
see
to
the
explain
language
it.
on all this, like, maybe.
Yeah, let's just put it together. I'm more focused on what I call the urbanized or subdivided areas. I don't wanna look at agriculture farmland.
Absolutely not.
All right, so we'll get that together, and we can see what that language will be, and hopefully it'll be something that'll be helpful.
Any other questions?
All right. Good.
Thanks, gentlemen. Thank you, sir.
All right, gentlemen, one other thing, and I think it was emailed to you, and I think there's a copy there in front of you. At our last meeting, recall, we passed, the agreement for the SRO pending, passage by the city commission and the Simpson County School Board. Well, the city passed it, but then the school board wouldn't. Because the school wanted to have, not only that we would renegotiate a new contract after December of 2021, they wanted language in there that if we didn't get a new agreement adopted, it would revert back to the old agreement that's 10 years old. The sheriff and I talked about it. Really, there's no net change in what this is as far as what our obligation is from now till December of 2021. And this agreement clearly says in paragraph 5 that the term of this agreement shall commence July 27th of 2020 and end on December 31, 2021. So this agreement will be over with in December 31 of 2021. The school just wanted the language in there that it would revert back, and I tried to explain that it doesn't really matter if that language is in there, because the agreement will never revert back to that original agreement. A new one will have to be, taken, put together, but they wanted the language in there. Sam, I think, has looked at it. It's not really that big a deal. The sheriff, it's no net change to what we're doing between now and December 31 of 2021. The biggest issue will be, we will have to negotiate round about this time next year, July, August of next year, what the agreement will look like going forward beginning January 1 of 2022.
How long does the CSC audit program last?
December 31 of 2021.
So if it reverts back to that's what they're saying, if they don't need to guarantee that $125,000 a year.
No.
If they want to revert back to the original contract.
Yeah, but no more than that, they wanted their financial obligation to be the same as it was then. But as I explained to the school board attorney and the conversations I've had with the city, you gotta understand too, those numbers were 10 years old. The cost to have that officer and pay that retirement and all the costs associated with it now 10 years later, it's never gonna be the same. So you're never gonna revert back to that old agreement with the money.
I'm just wondering where that $125,000 came from.
Well, and that's my point, is this whole thing's gonna have to be rehashed next fall, so that we know going into January 1 of 2022, where we're at. But they wanted this other language in. Sheriff, you were good, right? For this through December 31 of 2021.
I'm good with that contract till that date. I can make no obligation on the sheriff's office and after that date until I know what the figures are.
Right.
And the figures are all up to y'all. Y'all are the ones that make it. We'll be okay with that contract. We are getting ready to start school. We've already put things in place to do it. I'm good with that contract. I'm not pushing that at you. I'm just saying, at the end of that day, until it gets, and the people that figure it out, Mason, McKinney, and the school board, what that contract is.
And the truth is, here again, all we can do today is pass this agreement, authorize me to sign it, pending passage of the city commission and the school board. The city may be the one that would balk on this, although they have verbally said they'll go with it, and we'll just have to renegotiate next fall.
It's not gonna bind us, that's this language, it's not gonna.
This contract ends December 31, 2021.
Well, where is the language that they want to add?
Yeah, like we pulled,
I'm having some concerns about
we pulled out the snow removal. They wanted the snow removal left in. And the city verbally said that they are all right, they'll do snow removal for one more winter.
Also, they part about, the sheriff's commission,
Well, they left it in there through this next tax year.
Because I'm just saying that was a difference.
Yeah, they want to reduce the sheriff's tax collection rate going forward. Yeah.
Well, actually, statute, it is what it is. Statute says, that the Attorney General's opinion says, it's the actual cost. It's not, you know, and so sheriff is reimbursed for his commission for collecting actual costs. So it's not still supposed to be a money-making proposition. And it is what it is. You know, the sheriff says this is how much it costs. Well, I need split costs. School can ask the locals, break down the percent and costs of taxes, and that's what the commission, that's but I'm just saying, it has always been a point of contention, going back well before Sheriff Hobson's tenure, all the pressure between the school and the sheriff's office about.
And I also explained that to the school board attorney, that if we leave it like this, we're good through December 31, 2021, but just like Marty said, I told him, I just plainly told him that if that rate gets cut and it's not financially feasible, we may not be able to do this.
I thought you said that we took the snow and moved out.
We did in the original, they wanted it back in.
Okay.
Yeah, they wanted it back in, and then paragraph 2, on down, about just a little below halfway down the page where the sentence that starts, the parties shall in good faith negotiate a new agreement. That was all in the agreement we just authorized at our last meeting, that we would in good faith, negotiate a new agreement for the provision of a school resource officer to take effect at the termination of this agreement, provided that if such new agreement is not agreed upon and executed by the date of termination hereof, the arrangement regarding the school resource officer shall revert to its pre-December 31, 2011. We pulled that all out, but they want that back in.
That's my only concern. That's the confusing as far as I'm concerned, because on the one hand, you have paragraph 5 saying again,
Yeah.
and then in this paragraph 2, if we don't reach an agreement, a new agreement, the old one automatically kicks back in.
But here's the deal, if it automatically kicks back into the old one, the city's on the hook for providing the officers, we just give them either $10,000 or $15,000 and we're done. So it wouldn't make any sense for the school to even want to go back to that agreement.
Well, to me, it looks like it goes back to the old agreement. We would still be supplying the school officers, but the rate would be, the city would be responsible for whatever's updated between the school and the county and the state.
Yeah, but the old agreement had the city providing the officer. Huh?
No, the original grant.
Originally,
We had
sheriff's office had it. That's the original agreement.
I don't like that language in there.
I can't vote for it. I'm sorry. I just can't vote for something that refers back to 2011.
I'm just saying, but the original, I'm sorry, seriously, the original agreement.
Had the county, had the, okay.
That's when
The city kicked in the money, we provided the sheriff's deputy. That changed a few years after that. The original agreement called for the sheriff to provide the person.
if I remember right, this is another grant from June Starks, there.
Yeah.
And we had a grant there, and that's how it's done under the sheriff's office in the beginning, and that grant lasted for like 5 years. And then they decided that wasn't working as well for the sheriff, so they wanted to go with the city. And they did that for a while, now it came back to the
If you want to go
sheriff.
back to the original one, pre-2011, it would be the sheriff.
I just don't, I don't like voting for something that says we're gonna revert back to something that happened 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm just.
Yeah, and I pointed it out, I don't know why the school was insisting upon,
And I can't imagine that the city is gonna vote for something that reverts back to, I just can't imagine.
I'm just saying there's confusion. One paragraph says it terminates, and another one says it doesn't. And I'm just not clear.
my thing is, I think that we should work with the school to provide an officer. I think we all in good faith understand that next fall, late summer, fall, we're gonna have to negotiate a contract because this tractor supply pilot deal is over with.
That's another thing, that $125,000, if, you know, if you revert back to that, then
Yeah.
are they gonna go to the industrial board and say we want that $125,000, or, you know, there's too much things in there, but
I mean, we've all,
we need a resource officer.
I mean, here's all I need to hear is what the favor of the court is, because we've already signed an agreement that we're comfortable with, and the city has signed it. The city passed it at their city commission meeting last week.
I'm good with that agreement.
So,
I'm not good with this one.
I know, if you need a motion from Ms. Ann, or to say that I do not agree with it, or.
I think,
I'll make a motion.
yeah, I don't think we need a motion. I think the directive of the court is that I contact the school attorney and say,
we've already approved one.
we've approved an agreement and we're not good with this one.
I think you could decide this one, I think you would have to, because it's different. You all have to do a motion affirmatively doing it. If you're not doing it, you don't have to do a motion. And so, I mean, you just go back to the, you know, the school folks and say, listen.
I tell you what I would like, if we can do it this way, Counselor, I think I would like a motion that just states that, a motion that states that we intend to stick with the agreement that we signed July 7th.
I mean, it doesn't say man.
All right, so we got a motion by Marty that we just, adhere to the agreement we signed July 7th, 2020. Myron seconded. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? Okay. All right, moving along into financial business, if you had an opportunity to review the budget transfers, we just need a motion and a second to approve those transfers. Motion by Nate. Second by Myron. Any question or discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? All right. Next, gentlemen, is, to review, if you had a chance to review, is to approve a cash transfer of $15,000 from the general to the jail. Obviously, we're in a new budget cycle. This is all money that's factored into the budget at this point. I assume, Jayla, you've seen the email that I sent you, that we're operating under POs, just absolute necessity items. We're reviewing that, we're keeping a track, Nicole and Michelle are both doing a good job of tracking what our cash balance is at any given moment. So, we're doing everything we can to monitor spending, but.
And we did not do $40,000 that you all transferred, or you all sent back to last week. But now, with this transfer, we do receive $8,000 in benefits, so it'll be $15,000, that's an 8. We're hoping by the 31st, when we process payroll.
This is for payroll.
We'll get some more, I anticipate more. So we have not had to make any transfers yet, but it will be that $40,000 that you all approved at last meeting, but right now we're looking at about $7,000. And we still on the transfer location.
But it is for the July 31 payroll.
Is the, I know we're new in the budget, but the reduction, of state inmates, is it,
Well, and that's how we're trying to make sure that all the purchases are on an essential basis
Yeah.
due to that.
if we stay on this track, we're gonna be considerably under revenue, if we stay on this track.
I mean, we're hoping so, I mean, that's what we're doing, I mean, we're trying to make sure purchases stay at
Well-
an essential basis, but we do have purchases that we are kind of authorized.
I think as of yesterday, we have 194 state inmates,
And the class two money was about $58,000.
and we've got,
And then let's see, budget.
the reason I say that, our budget is based on 260, so, I mean, we're tracking right now on what we,
And personnel that they have right now, and plus, I mean, we still have to pay all those inmates, all the food, medical, utilities.
but is it going down?
I mean, they base that pricing on what inmates we do have, so.
All right, well, I would have to have a motion and a second to approve this transfer.
So moved, Mike.
Second.
Motion by Myron, I heard Nate, make the second first. Scott, any other question or discussion? So the motion was by Myron, the second was by Nate. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, next, gentlemen, if you had the opportunity to review the bills and claims, we just need a motion and a second to approve those claims.
So moved.
Motion by Myron,
Second.
second by Nate. Any questions, discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? And finally, if you had an opportunity to review the treasurer's 2019-2020 settlement, we need a motion and a second to approve that. Would that also be pending an audit, like the monthly report?
And his mirrors exactly what the new thirty financial statement, gives for annual,
So moved.
Motion by Marty,
Second.
second by Scott. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? All right, we'll move on to reports. I have a few things to discuss real quick. I think I told most of you, most of the magistrates when I come in, but for those of you here and the press, the city has called and requested this morning that we cancel our, noon joint meeting today. So, you don't have to come back, Keith. Then on your portal, I'll hit this real quick. I got a request for support money to the Down syndrome. I thought I would let you guys look at that. If that's something that you feel like we want to do, we will. I don't want to arbitrarily make those kind of decisions or determinations.
I don't have a problem with that.
I don't even remember if they even had a request amount or.
They've
You know,
got,
they've got,
Got a whole list of.
yeah, from like 100 to 5,000 or
Yeah.
something like
I
that.
wouldn't have a problem with $1,000, but I want to make it very clear, this is only year by year.
Yeah, yeah. That's entirely up to you guys.
This is one time.
I don't know, I can't say how often they've made this request. I don't recall getting this request last year.
Never were talking this request.
I don't recall seeing it last year.
There's a lot I don't recall this.
Did we cut out the whole harbor and, or did we still get that?
Yeah, they've not requested any money.
Well, we got,
The Hope Harbor, yeah, they've not made a request.
I really don't have a problem with this, I do, just give them something open, do something. If I really don't have a problem with it, I'd just rather get something locally, something more.
Yeah. Well, I think this is the South Central Kentucky. I think folks from Franklin are involved in this.
If we're putting the Franklin off.
I want to give you a budget.
We didn't budget anything.
I thought you said.
No.
No, that was Hope Harbor.
Yeah, Hope Harbor, they've not made a request in the last few years. But no, this is not a budgeted expense, which is why I didn't want to just arbitrarily say, hey, we'll send them X amount of dollars. That's up to you guys. And I mean, we're not obligated to it, so we can move on and I can finish my report.
I don't know, I just think we're open. I'm just thinking if we do one. And
I mean, it's just the thing, they're opening up the door, yeah.
I just think we're opening up the door. That's just my, I think,
I think then we just need to hold off, considering all the stuff that's going on.
All right, I'll move on in the report. Nicole did get all of the information together. We got the application and first reimbursement request for the CARES Act money. I don't know that we've heard anything yet on how it's being processed and handled. I know it's in the queue, but that's all I know about it. So if we get that first reimbursement, it'll make me feel better about the possibility of another reimbursement. I have no idea how that's gonna work. One of the things that we were gonna discuss at the joint meeting, that I guess we'll just discuss independently here, I've said, and I still believe this is true, we need a true, comprehensive growth plan. The sheriff is sitting on that committee, with me, of how do we want Franklin and Simpson County to look 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. One of the things that has happened with kind of this boom in housing and development is we have a lot of developers that are coming down from the north and up from the south that's wanting to do development work here, and quite honestly, they can dot all the i's and cross all the t's as far as planning and zoning regulations, but it doesn't mean necessarily that that development's going to be something presentable. So the discussion come up that we maybe look at having a development design review board, that as more subdivision development happens, that even though they meet the criteria for planning and zoning regs, we put together a board that would review the aesthetics part of it. Because honestly, if, let's say, we have a developer coming up out of Nashville, let's say, what they want is to make money. They're not gonna live here, they're not gonna look at what they put in day after day. They come here, they've done this, they meet all of the requirements of planning and zoning, and then we could be stuck with looking at something that's horrible.
Well, it doesn't look horrible, but that subdivision out here on the Lewis and Walmart,
It doesn't look good.
but, I mean, but it has no sidewalks in it, they got a light pole in the middle of the street, there's no way that subdivision should
And
happen.
there's sidewalks going all the way down, South 31W with nothing there. But in that subdivision, there's nothing.
We need something, because like you say, that developer coming in this project. And I thought those houses, when they started out, supposed to be in the 125, 130 range, now they're up to 180, and instead of, it's just a safety issue when you're living with that many houses. But like I say, I put a street with a lot of holes in the middle of it, it's just, I'm going there 31 north.
So again, really, this is just information only, but in premise, you guys are okay if we put something together and y'all can take a look at it, here's what we're gonna do, and we'll vote to put it in place. But I think we need a review board from the simple fact that, I mean, here's the thing, here's the bottom line. If we had the land mass of, say, Logan County, we might not be as concerned about what pops up here today. But we're sitting on I-65 with Nashville and Bowling Green both coming at us, and our land mass is fairly small. We want to make sure that what gets dotted on our map is something that is presentable to this community.
So what's your reference to subdivision development? Not an individual.
No, this would be more of a design review for subdivision and business development. Yeah. We don't care what, you build your house, whatever you want to build it, but we want to make sure that the entrance to a subdivision is a presentable situation, that the configuration of that makes sense, so that it's not just.
I didn't want the public to get confused that they're gonna build a house.
No, we're talking about development review, not individual structure review. All right, so then, the report that we just received yesterday from the district on the COVID-19 shows Simpson County at 104 confirmed cases, with 74 of those recovered and 4 passed away, which leaves our current active case count, according to the district, at 26. So that's where we're at on that. Then, y'all recall, we agreed to jointly fund with the city and the Industrial Authority and the Chamber, and we signed some type of cooperative agreement with the other counties of the Brad to jointly fund this small business development center to operate back open in Western. So we finally have two, this will be released later today, that we put, two business coaches, have been hired to work with the area small businesses. And so now small business development is gonna have a resource right here in our area without having to travel to Lexington. So they got that all put together finally. And that's all I've got. Myron?
Nothing today.
Scott?
No, sir.
Nate?
Yeah, just a little something from the Boys and Girls Club. We had met virtually yesterday, and they will be opened up at the same time that the schools will be opened up on August 26th. One of the biggest differences that they're gonna have this year is that they only wanna have up to 50 kids total in the building. And they already got a system set up how they're gonna be able to distinguish which 50 kids that they're gonna get. And it's gonna be difficult and hard, but the system that they pretty much got arranged is the most reliable one, and it's the most righteous one that they go by. You know, to make it all fair, it's like the fair system that they have set up, and they are going through all the measures of getting it reopened, through all the cleaning and everything is already set up. So everything will be safe and it will be monitored. And they also want to have kids that, the ones that's not going to be able to come, also will be able to continue to get online and still do stuff online also. And so the ones that won't be able to make it down there, they will still have the opportunity to get the same type of training and do some of the same activities also.
Very good.
And that's all I have.
Marty?
I think some utilities have been marked on Salem Road, are they getting close to doing that hill on Salem Road? I see some flags and
I had
things.
the utilities part, I'm gonna try to get that done after we do mowing, so we can move in and pay them.
So do you have a time frame on that?
I'm waiting for I've actually been waiting for the road list, the reflection list to come back from the state, because I thought if we could get it done, when we had, just short time before our paving schedule, and that way they can get in.
We probably ought to run an ad on, or just run something on the radio, that road will be closed for probably 4 or 5 days or something.
Usually we'll have it closing down, and I have Bob run that,
Okay.
whatever that location he calls, where he calls that area.
The one call? Yeah.
Okay.
Cameron? Go ahead.
Well, I got Aaron's board meeting noon and other things.
Counselor?
I don't think I had anything.
Sheriff?
No report, sir.
Jailer?
Just think everybody here.
Okay.
I just wanted to run by y'all, or run this by you. We monitoring our expenditures and stuff like that. We put this off for 3 years, but our, control room has got to be revamped. We've all talked about this. We're gonna try to get the IT grant in, it's there, we just been holding off. But they're gonna start next week, so.
But you've already got the money to cover all of that, correct?
We don't per se have it, you'll get it first.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we don't, I mean, it's
It's
not.
there. It's there.
That's all gonna be done through that grant.
Right.
That we put in the budget.
Right.
100%.
Yes. It should be. It's right there. I think we figured what, 68?
It's the phone contract grant.
Yeah. And we're gonna be somewhere right there at it. So I just want you to be aware this is coming, it's gonna be a big expenditure, but the money's gonna be there to cover it. I just want to know.
Money's gonna be there, or money is there?
It's
there.
Okay. Okay. I understand, but she was saying, right away, she was saying, don't do that. I was just wondering.
No, it will come directly, well, it'll come directly to the general fund, or, I'll have them make it straight to you.
Bobby, did you have anything?
Yeah. I just know that last unbridge. That last unbridge project, the structural part is done, Scott Burton Daniels out. We had first planned on doing it approach ourselves, but because of some damage done with no fault of theirs, that area is a bit larger than his space and some roads rubbed up. So I went ahead and contacted the Lease, they're gonna put a couple of asphalt and do that. And they'll just do a lot better job. I ain't spent that much money on bridge, you know, have this rough approach, as much as that to be done, so, we know they cover out asphalt.
What about the Untitled Chapter road? Are they done with that ditch yet?
No, that's one of the things I got on my list to contact them. I called the local meeting on it because, I was gonna get the sliders. They've done a lot of work on there. They had finished, I think, what they're gonna do on their land. And they actually had a swell cut on top of that hill to carry the water away from the road. So you're still gonna get some runoff, but I'm gonna contact and tell them first week of August, we're ditching that thing with their tile. Whatever they're gonna do after that, if they don't have anything else done, I'll just put a silt thing up myself, take our ditch. They have to have that done, first September, they're gonna do that road.
Right. Okay.
I'm just waiting for the, you guys stuff done. Second, I contacted the guy today this week, or in the last week, and as far as the flex funding, that 80/20, he has all that ready, they're just waiting for the state to give them the go ahead and start approving the projects.
Okay.
Sheriff, is there anyone out there with the jail that has anything? I mean, not the jail, the fire department. Okay, well then I know we got Bill on the agenda, so we're ready for our maintenance supervisor. Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, on the portal, we sent your proposal for the roof down at the jail. We budgeted amount of $31,950. If you look at the proposal, he went ahead and gave us a discount, like we were going to do the whole roof. So he took off $2,173, so the actual amount would be $29,777. And that will be for sections A and B. That's with the 100% silicone, gecko, and all the itemized stuff that's on the proposal here. It'd be clean, 2 coats, heat warranted for 15. The only reason is the manufacturer actually has 50-year warranty on their product, but Tim said that he only actually seen it on the roof 10 to 15 years, so he was fine with giving us a 15-year warranty on that roof after he gets it coated. So, really today, unless there's more discussion, I just need a motion, and a second by Carrie for us to go ahead with this proposal and for the judge to sign.
Motion by Marty and second by Nate. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Bill. All right, I do need to have a brief executive session, regarding personnel discussions or hearings which might lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an individual according to KRS 61.810, paragraph 1, paragraph L. Did I get a motion? Motion by Scott, second by Marty. All in favor, aye? We'll take about a 5-minute recess.